Here. What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Narclips, your boy 94, aka Malik. Back again with another stream for you guys. Gonna have some good topics and discussions, all wrestling related. So make sure you guys interact in the chat. Feel free to interact, ask questions, and chat along. As always, maybe some of your favorite TikTok creators are here to chat with us along. And I'll let everybody introduce themselves. Start with Jason, then we'll go to Tio, then Infamous, and Owner. Loft will be last. So after Loft, we can get to some discussion.
What's going on, y'all? Wrestling page is HB Bird. Main page Bird with a Y. Been here a few times, so let's get it. Let's talk.
Yeah, it's Teal Sales 44th here, man. And always happy to be here, especially with all these great content creators. It's gonna be great, it's gonna be fun. And yeah, I'm ready.
Infamous Opinionist, my username right here. If you go there, all my other socials are in my bio. If you want to come follow me, daily wrestling content, just don't be an asshole. Let's talk some wrestling, Malik. I'm ready, man.
What's going on, everybody? Lewis here. Super Christian fan. You can go subscribe to Wrestling Chop Shop to see more of my ugly ass face.
I'm gonna need Christian help with your source. Get that title, bro. I'm gonna need that.
All right, what's up, y'all? Y'all know it's the one Life Not Famous, you know what I'm saying? Gonna talk about some wrestling and it's having fun.
All right, so I want to touch on there's been a lot of topics lately about certain superstars being overpushed, certain superstars may not deserve certain pushes, maybe just too early for this certain person to get pushed. A lot been going on how people feel about certain superstars being utilized and shit like that.
So can I start, Malik? Can I get us rolling? Because I got some thoughts on this.
Please.
When let me just put it to you, and again, I'm gonna get some things off my chest, but feel free for anyone to bounce.
Don't anybody who wants to speak. Don't be afraid to hold back though. Speak what you want.
Yeah. So, how do we judge when is too early for someone to start getting pushed? Who makes that decision? Who sets the age? Who sets the amount of in-ring experience? Who sets the number of championships you have to win before it's like, oh, okay, now is when you start getting pushed. Like, it all comes back to Theory, right? No one wants to see Theory win the Money in the Bank. No one wants to see Theory be a world champion.
Don't say everybody. I ain't have an issue with it.
Okay, everybody in my comments, because I seem to attract them like fucking flies to a piece of shit. My point is, my point is, Theory is built like he's made of granite. He had a long run in NXT. He had a killer Royal Rumble appearance. He was a U.S. champ. That seems to be a natural progression towards a Money in the Bank win, right? I mean, The Miz had a similar path to it. Fucking Damian Sandow had a similar path to it, even though that didn't work out. Baron Corbin had a similar path to it. Again, didn't work out. But again, almost everyone who's won Money in the Bank, with the exception of Orton, Cena, all the main event guys who won it, has had that similar progression. And now suddenly, I guess it's because Theory takes selfies and he's a bad guy and he's a heel. I don't know. I think this is
I can tell you what it is. At least what I perceive that it is because Theory is a Vince McMahon prodigy. He's a Vince McMahon, another guy. Most of the Vince guys that Vince may seem like that he likes a lot or makes it more noticeable, people reject it. Roman Reigns, you can use that as a perfect example. People kind of made that obvious when he was first getting that push after the Shield split up. You know, a lot of people, said it would be Ambrose who would get the big push, or it'd be Seth Rollins. But, Roman Reigns was always going to be next in line. He was always next in line to get that spot, no matter how long it would have been. So I think it's because he's an events guy. People don't like it. And people may be upset. I know, like Jason felt like Seth Rollins should have won. He felt like he deserved that Money in the Bank because he'd been putting people over lately and he'd been putting in the work. So that's understandable. So I can understand why he was a little upset. I don't think he personally had an issue with Theory winning. It was more as though it was like he didn't feel like it was the right time for Theory to shine. Am I right about that?
I mean, yeah, for the most part, like my only gripe was that because like I had stated like previously, like I don't have a problem. I don't have as much of a problem. Well, I don't have a problem with Theory at all now, if we're being honest. Like, when he was first going through this whole Vince McMahon prodigy thing, I wasn't feeling it. But now it's just like, okay, I'm rocking with it. I like Theory. Theory cool. It's just my only gripe with that whole thing was I felt like Seth Rollins should have won based solely on the fact that I think he deserved it more than anybody else that was in that match. With that being like, he hasn't held a title in 2 years. He hasn't held a world title in like 3 years. And then on top of that, whenever like WWE has been looking to help somebody else that's on the roster. They seem to, get Seth Rollins and have him have him do that job. Like when Cesaro got his WrestleMania moment, Seth Rollins was there. Like when Edge came back and Edge wanted to show us that he still had it in ring, Seth Rollins was the man for the job. Cody Rhodes came back, wanted to show us that he could hang. Seth Rollins did the job. So it's just like now, when you so like low on talent in a sense with like all these injuries, I just felt like now would have been the perfect time to like actually reward Seth Rollins for all the work that he's been putting in. To me, he's been the best in the company for like years now, and I don't feel like that they've been treating him as such in a way. Like I understand Seth Rollins is one of those superstars that to where it's just like he don't necessarily need the title to be great because he's already great in his own sense. But in the same sense, that doesn't mean you just take him and use him to give everybody else wins and like stack all these L's on him. I don't feel like that's right in that sense. So I feel like this all just comes back to me saying like I don't hate Theory. I like Theory. He's cool with me now. It's just like I feel like you could have done so much, like you could have done so much better on like the storytelling side of things and just like in general having Seth Rollins win the Money in the Bank. Like I feel like if you wanted to have Theory win the Money in the Bank next year, like that's cool. I'd be fine with that. Like, but in terms of like building up a star and like building up Theory, I feel like you could have used Theory to actually like build up the prestige of the United States title. Like have him for like 6-7 months just be unbeatable for the United States Championship. Have him be kicking everybody's ass and do that. And then when somebody takes the title off him, then that'll bring more prestige to that mid-card title while Theory goes up to, challenge for the world title because he got time. He young.
Well, go back to Jade's question. I want everybody to touch on it. When is it too soon to push people? How do you know? Because, I mean, Theory's 24, but, I mean, they pushed a lot of people who was young before. Randy Orton got the push, even though the experiment with Randy Orton didn't work at first, and he even said that. The point is they were always invested and saw the potential in Randy Orton, even at that age. And when Randy Orton got the WWE title push back in 2007, he was ready then. The age of Orton title push. He was ready at that time. But then look at what about somebody like Kurt Angle? Somebody like Brock Lesnar? Like, people may forget, like, Kurt Angle came to the WWE in November of 99. He came in within a couple of months, like maybe 2-3 months, he won the Intercontinental and European title at the same time. And then later down the road, he beat The Rock to become WWE champion. He hadn't even been in the company for a full year yet. And then he won the 6-man Hell in a Cell, which was stacked with superstars like The Rock and Austin and Rikishi and Taker and Triple H. Like, there were other options you could have used there, but they were making Kurt Angle very credible. Brock Lesnar the same way. Like, Brock Lesnar comes up to the main roster, from OVW, squashes Hulk Hogan, right? He beats Hulk Hogan's the immortal one, so he beats Hulk Hogan. Like, oh man, like Brock the man, right? Wins King of the Ring. Then he beats The Rock too at SummerSlam, 25 years old, to win the WWE Championship. Brock Lesnar, his first ever WrestleMania main event, he was in the main event against Kurt Angle. So I mean, like, when is it too early to push people? Because you never really know until I feel like you really give them that type of push.
I feel like you don't know in terms of like when it's too soon, when it's not. I feel like you never really know until you just let it happen and like let the experience happen. That's why with the whole Theory thing, like you would never catch me being like, oh no, Theory's too young. He's not ready to stand a third, blah, blah. Cause it's just like, you don't know. My only thing was, I just feel like he didn't deserve it as much as somebody else.
Go ahead, T. I'll let you touch on it.
Oh, me?
Yeah, just go ahead.
I feel like y'all saying, you don't know. You can't ever know. And when it comes to Theory, I don't even think him being too young would even be that good of an argument because he's been wrestling for years. He's been on NXT for years. He was on the main roster back in the pandemic era working with Seth Rollins. And he's been on the main roster since they went back on tour for like, about a year now? So people are familiar with Theory. So when it comes to pushing Theory, I'm not mad at it. I kind of would see why people say it wasn't the right decision. But when it comes to pushing a young talent, I'm all for pushing the young talent. As long as they can wrestle, as long as they can talk, Theory can do both, I'm all for it.
Well, there's three things for me, to make it seem like, that this person is at least worthy. You know what I'm saying? The first thing is, can you actually wrestle? Can you put on decent matches? Can you put on good matches, quality matches? You know what I'm saying? Don't nobody, like, people are going to care if you're boring as fuck in the ring. You know what I'm saying? The second being, can you work the crowd? You know what I'm saying? It doesn't matter if they cheer you. You know, if you being a good guy, don't matter if they boo you for being a bad guy. Doesn't matter. As long as you get some good, genuine reactions, that's what you need. And three, can you cut a promo? Can you make something unbelievable sometimes? Can you work a mic? And if you ask me, to all you Theory haters, go fuck yourself. He checks off all three boxes. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like in Vince's head, you at least got to be good at two to three of those things. And Theory checks off all the boxes, man. He could work in the ring. You saw face to face to John Cena, he didn't fold, and he's good in the ring. He gets reactions. He's doing everything that Vince is asking about him. So I think if you can master those three things as much as Theory's doing right now, you ready for a push. Doesn't matter what age you are.
Go ahead, Loft. What you think?
It was weird because him winning Money in the Bank, it didn't. First of all, it didn't phase me at first because I was happy as hell Liv won. So anything else that happened that show, I didn't give a fuck about. But him winning, I didn't care that much as I saw other people. Just I feel he is so heavily backed by Vince. A lot of people don't like Vince. So anything that Vince co-signs, especially as much as he co-signs Theory, they're going to be like, oh, this is bad. I do think his push is a bit corny only because I remember I believe when he won the US Championship on Raw, I think when he won it or when he defended it was something weird. They had this weird celebration where like 5 of the jobbers and the heels came out and they tried to make a whole production out of him winning this belt.
Yeah.
I'm saying like, it looked weird.
That was stupid.
It didn't look.
That was stupid. I
It
agree.
didn't look genuine. It just looked weird. It looked like it was placed wrong. So I'm sitting there like, okay, I see what you're doing. I see he's a great wrestler. You know what I'm saying? I don't like his character, but I guess he's a heel, so I'm not supposed to. Whatever. But I just think he's corny. But on a wrestling level, he's one of the best I've seen on the main roster. You know what I'm saying? I didn't watch his stuff with NXT and stuff like that, but as of what I'm seeing right now, he's a great talent. I just think that him winning Money in the Bank, especially since we had 6 weeks of now pointless qualifying matches for someone to come in at the end and win it, that didn't really make sense to me. It just
So I think that speaks to a wider issue with Money in the Bank, right? Because I mean, 2019, Brock Lesnar wrestled the last 2 minutes of Money in the Bank and won it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nikki Ash cashes in the next night, wins the title. 1 week later, loses it. Otis wins the briefcase, loses it to The Miz, who cashes in 1 week later, loses it. There's an obvious bigger problem with the entire package of Money in the Bank, and that's another conversation. But I could see how you could see this in a nutshell or an isolated incident and put that on Theory and have that affect what you think of his push. I totally get that. But I think that speaks to a wider issue with the Money in the Bank concept that we're seeing over the past few years.
I think though, I think what people fail to realize though is that, or maybe overlook, is that majority of the guys that say quote unquote Vince handpicks the shoes, they're usually not bad. They all become legends in some perspective. You know, you look at a Hulk Hogan or John Cena, you know, any of those guys, you know, look at all, I'm not saying Theory will be those guys that be like face of the company type guys, but if you look at guys like Hogan and Shawn and Austin Rock and Cena, Roman now, like all these guys are being pushed at top guys, but all those guys, you know, were people that Vince liked and felt like he could make money off of, you know what I mean? And they were all right choices because they all were draws and they all were legends to a degree. Not saying Theory will be on that level, but he sees potential in Theory that people may not have saw it. Theory kind of right now reminds me a lot of The Miz. When The Miz won the Money in the Bank, you know, what was it? About 12 years ago. I did not see it, bro. I was like, bro, I don't believe he's gonna cash in and win the title. Like he's not main event material. I don't see it in him, bro. Like I don't know why he has this briefcase, but when he cashes in, he's not winning. And I feel like a lot of people feel that way right now about Theory. Miz would go on to win the WWE Championship and he had that run, and I still felt like he wasn't there yet. But then years later, when Miz was running with the IC title, then you saw, I'm like, okay, now I understand what Vince may have saw in the Miz, you know, 5-6 years ago at that point in time. I feel like a lot of people feel that way right now about Theory. They feel like they don't see it, you know, they don't see it. But I feel like years maybe later, then they'll be like, okay, now I saw what they was doing, backing out in 2022. Like I see what they saw there. Vince always has his eyes on somebody. He knows who he likes. He knows who he doesn't like. There's always people for the fans, and there's always people for Vince. It's been like that for years. Hulk Hogan, Vince guy, Macho Man, WWE crowd guy. Shawn Michaels, Vince guy, Bret Hart for the fans. Austin, Rock will kind of go hand in hand because they both, just became so incredibly popular. But you look, John Cena, Vince guy, CM Punk for the fans. Roman Reigns, Vince guy, Seth Rollins for the fans. You know what I mean? It goes neck and neck. So I just feel like with as far as perception of being the Vince guys, they'll always be rejected just because they know that Vince is pushing them because he likes them. And people just negatively react to that because they feel like the other people may deserve that spot. Maybe a Riddle or maybe Drew McIntyre or Seth Rollins or somebody else deserves that spot more than Theory. But Theory's not bad, though. You can't, like Lewis said, you can't tell me he can't cut promos because he can. I've seen him cut good promos. I've seen him have good match. He had a great match with Bobby Lashley before he won the Money in the Bank. You know what I mean? So it's not like he can't put on good matches. And character work, I'm not really digging the whole selfie thing. I don't really know why they're doing that, but I maybe it's to piss people off. Maybe it's for them to be like, why is he doing this type thing? So maybe that's the idea that they want. But there's nothing bad about Theory to me. I can understand if people like, if somebody won, like if fucking Omos won the Money in the Bank, I can understand if people were like, why does he have the Money in the Bank? You know what I mean? Like he's just a big guy. You know what I mean? Like he doesn't put on quality matches. He's just a giant. I think the WWE does like Omos because of his size, you know what I mean? And I don't think he needs to put on quality matches because they don't want him to do that. I mean, but I feel like from the fans' perspective, I can understand if he had Money in the Bank and he won it over like a Seth Rollins, you would be upset. Okay, I can understand that. But Theory has a lot of potential, man. He has a lot of potential. And people are always talking about they want new stars, but when they push stars that they like and you don't like, then it becomes an issue. It's like, oh, we wanted new stars, but we didn't want that guy. We wanted that guy over there. We want you to push that person.
I feel like too the fans.
That's exactly what it is.
I think so. I think so too with the fans. Like it's what I said in Malik's last podcast. Like when the WWE pushes somebody that the fans genuinely like, there is repercussions, man. And like I can list you a whole bunch of ways. Like when Kofi won the WWE Championship, that was the fan favorite. That was us saying we want Kofi, right? What was the repercussion for that? Brock Lesnar. That was the repercussions for that. Same thing with fucking Randy Orton. With the whole Bray him beating Bray Wyatt. Like people wanted Randy to get another reign, right? What was the repercussions? Jinder Mahal. You know what I'm saying? There's always going to be some sort of repercussions of a person you guys want to be pushed. Like Shinsuke, y'all wanted Shinsuke to be pushed. What was the repercussion? He got buried to the fucking moon at WrestleMania. Just from that low blow, he was done. Y'all already knew he was done. So there's always repercussions. So this is why I always say, y'all better literally know who you guys want to be pushed because Loft, I love you, bro. He doesn't want to hear this, but Liv Morgan's title reign, probably going to be a short one. Probably going to end at SummerSlam to Ronda. Like, that's just how it is. You know what I'm saying? So always know who y'all want to be pushed because they will get buried.
Bro, I'm going to say this. I've been thinking about that. I've been having nightmares. I woke up in cold sweats about 4 times thinking about that shit. That scares me. But I think I don't know if they're going to go that direction only because I didn't expect them to go full marketing mode with Liv winning the championship. You know what I'm saying? Like she won, and then it seemed like they're like on board with it. It doesn't seem like there's an ulterior motive. Now, could Ronda or Charlotte or Bailey behind the corner like and take it from her? Very clearly that they could go that way. But it makes me sad about this company is that like I want people like Carmelo Hayes to get to the main roster and get pushed to the moon. But I know that, like you said, there's always something behind the wall, and I don't know if I want someone to get pushed and then if they don't see it the way the fans do, they'll just destroy them in a certain sense, That's the thing.
I think you can look at nowadays, though, of certain superstars that you will believe will get pushed and not get pushed. People ask me all the time, what do you think? Do you think this person will get pushed? Do you think this person will get pushed? It's not that I don't want them to. I don't trust the WWE. Like people are talking about, Montez Ford could be a singles guy, but I'm like, I don't see it, bro. Like, I don't see them pushing him as a singles competitor.
He got potential, but it's the here's the thing too. When people read reports talking about, oh, like Vince is impressed with this guy, you know what I'm saying? But it's like just because he's impressed, don't mean he actually gonna do shit with them. You know what I'm saying? Maybe Montez Ford on that singles run he had against Roman last year. You know what I'm saying? Before Cena, before he faced Cena, the reports came out that Vince was impressed. I don't mean he actually gonna use him. Maybe he probably surprised Vince, like, oh shit, I didn't know he could do all this shit. You know what I'm saying?
There's certain people that will get certain treatment over other people. I mean, it just is what it is. The WWE environment. There's only ever been one person that I heard of that wasn't supposed to be what they became and became larger than life, and Vince used them to the moon. That was Stone Cold Steve Austin. Came in as the ringmaster, ain't see shit at Stone Cold Steve Austin, but he became so incredibly popular. Like, and at that time was the Monday Night Wars. You got to use him, bro, because we in a war right now. So we got to use the best we got. And Stone Cold just became so beloved. You got to roll with it right there. But anybody else, like, there's been so many people that you, like I said, you wanted to get pushed, and they may have gotten pushed, but something bad always happened to me at the end. You look at, like I said, WrestleMania 35 was the perfect example. That was the WrestleMania for the fans. There were three people that a lot of people wanted to see win that night. It was Becky Lynch, Kofi Kingston, and Seth Rollins. All of them won championships. But how many of those really benefited? I mean, Kofi Kingston's title run, we all saw how that ended. Seth Rollins, we saw how his push happened when they fed into the Fiend, and that got ruined. Becky Lynch held the championship so long, but she was become stale to a lot of people because there wasn't really much there for her to do because she already beat everybody. So it's like, how many people can she really go at it with? So something always comes out of, I feel like, when people want certain people to get pushed, it never turns out good to a certain degree.
I will just throw this in here too, and this I guess this is my final word on the topic. You know, you got people that are upset about people like Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch and stuff not winning because the story makes sense, which I totally get. But there are people in WWE that are 100% bulletproof based on the way they've been treated. Like, no matter what happens, how many times they lose or whatever, how long they go with their titles, they're going to be fine. Seth Rollins is going to be fine. Becky Lynch is going to to be fine. Charlotte Flair is going to be fine. So Seth's going to get his. Becky's going to get hers. Brock Lesnar, right? There's guys that are always going to be okay, but then there's guys like Theory who need these moments, and people like Liv who need these moments just for them to be able to say, yeah, I'm relevant on the roster, and I'm here as a real sort of personality that you should root for. So people just have to understand that if Rollins wins that Money in the Bank, Theory then has to find some other way to be the top guy that the company wants him to be. And the company wants him to be a top guy, like it or not. So he had to win Money in the Bank. Seth Rollins is going to be a top guy no matter what. So just for those guys that are worried about Seth Rollins, he's going to be fine. That's all I wanted to say.
You know what scares me, though? And I've been thinking about this ever since I saw him hold that briefcase at the top of the ladder. I still 100% believe that, as probably weird as it sounds, that he's going to be champion at the end of SummerSlam after that Brock and Roman match. I have no reason to doubt that they're about to pull like one of the biggest.
I can't get on that one. I mean,
I don't know if I can get on that. I don't know if I can.
It sounds nuts.
It sounds really weird.
I'm calling it at Mania. I think Mania is gonna happen. I think Cody wins the Rumble. Cody wins the big one at Mania. Then Theory cashes in on Cody at Mania.
That is the biggest. You have the biggest heat ever. Like that would be.
As far as like SummerSlam,
which would be fucking awesome. I'll just say, I'd pop my nuts off.
As far as like, as far as it happening,
put me as a booker, man. I got y'all, man.
Oh my god!
As far as that happening at SummerSlam, I kind of feel like how, because Mitri was telling me like before Money in the Bank even happened, like he was saying that y'all know that since they making it obvious with the whole Seth Rollins thing, like and bringing up how he wanted and cashed it in the past, like it's probably not gonna happen. And Mitri, he was right in that sense. Like they was airing vignettes and video packages about what Seth Rollins did in the past, and he didn't end up winning. Now I feel like I'm kind of taking that same mindset in the SummerSlam, like how they keep billing it as like it'll be the perfect time for somebody to cash in because both of them will be hurt and this, that, and the third, and blah, blah, blah. So now I feel like they're just trying to use that as a swerve. Like he might come out, his music might play, but he not gonna cash in. Like I don't feel like he's actually gonna cash in. and
No,
like
I
go
don't.
through with it at SummerSlam.
I don't think he's beating Brock or Roman. I think Theory will cash in successfully, but I think he's going to hold the briefcase for a
No,
little bit of time and
the
continue to build up his credibility. Like, I
the thing.
can't see him beating Brock or Roman. Not
See,
even if Brock Lesnar or Roman on one leg, I can't see it.
Malik, on that note, Malik, like it's the Money in the Bank. So that's what they build it up as. Like, look at Liv Morgan cashing in on Ronda. Do you believe that Ronda could beat Ronda like a straight up match? Not right now. It doesn't
Yes.
seem like believable. But they had her cash in the way she did, a wounded Ronda Rousey.
But
Who said who?
I feel what you're saying, but there's different degrees though. Like Ronda Rousey ain't on the Roman Reigns Brock Lesnar level right now when it comes
there's
to
levels to
dominance.
this.
Like
true.
What I was gonna say.
Roman Reigns ain't been pinned in almost 3 years. And you gonna tell me Theory gonna be the first guy to
But
pin him?
Roman
Bro?
beat fucking Demon Finn. Like, what the fuck? Like, he ain't losing.
Brock,
his Theory. Like,
Brock has been pinned, but Brock don't lose often. You feel me? So it's like he don't
Yeah.
lose much. So it's like I don't even know if I would even believe, even if it's Money in the Bank. I don't even know if I would fully believe that.
I feel like the only person that would have been believable to cash in that match on either Roman or Brock Lesnar would have been Seth Rollins. And he didn't win. So now, since he didn't win and Theory won, I feel like what Lewis is saying is probably going to happen. Cody's going to come back, win the big one, and then Theory is going to come in and spoil that. So, like, because like I said, I feel like the only guy that would have been believable to cash in on Roman and Brock would have been Seth, but he didn't win.
Plus two,
On that
like,
note of Theory cashing in, I don't think he's gonna like Bird said, since they already hinted at it. He literally said, "Oh, I'm gonna wait until SummerSlam to cash in on Roman and Brock." He's obviously not cashing in. There's no way. Plus,
think,
we got the Clash of the Castle.
Clash at the Castle.
So especially with that, I don't see
that's
him
another
cashing in.
reason though I didn't think Seth Rollins was gonna win though, because Drew McIntyre already said that he was gonna fight Roman Reigns at Clash of the Castle before even Money in the Bank happened. So I'm like, okay, we know that's gonna be the main event right there. If it ain't gonna be Brock Lesnar, it's gonna be Roman. I mean, it's gonna be Brock Lesnar, one of the two. But it's like I didn't see Seth winning. I don't know. It just seemed a little too obvious to me. But I said Money in the Bank was gonna be like one winner was going to be for the fans, aka Liv Morgan, and the other winner was going to be somebody the WWE wanted, and that was Theory, and that's exactly what happened.
Austin Theory, I seen Sami Zayn. I was thinking they might trick us and have Sami Zayn do something, because Sami Zayn has had that storyline where it's like, oh, if I win, I'm not gonna cash in on Roman. I'm gonna wait till what, he loses to Brock or something, and it's like, come on. So that would have been a cool storyline.
They also have a really easy out at SummerSlam to get the pop, but also keep the briefcase on Theory, but keep the title on Roman. Because obviously Roman beats Brock, but now he's dead in the ring. Music hits, Theory comes out, he's going to cash in, but before the bell rings, here come the damn Usos, double super kick, cash in never happens, right? So there's an easy out to get that pop, but then have everyone leave the way they came in. So yeah, I think Roman's winning the match. I think we're getting Roman versus Drew at Clash in the Castle. I actually think that Drew may take the title at Clash of the Castle. Maybe. I don't know. I'm not confident on that, but some part of me thinks it'll happen. So in order for that to happen, everyone has to leave SummerSlam the way they went in, and I think that's probably how they do it.
If Roman loses the title, do y'all think he loses one title or both?
Yeah.
Both. I think he's both.
See,
I don't know.
They're still doing the brand split thing, so it got to be one.
That's the thing.
I can't see somebody taking both of the titles off of him, like at one time.
That's the thing with my whole, like, me wanting Seth Rollins to win. I thought that if he won, they could use that to split the titles and take one of them off him so that Raw has a championship. That was my whole, like, thing. And then you could still have Drew versus Roman at Clash at the Castle for the Universal title. And if you want to take the Universal title off Roman, I mean, that would be okay. I mean, like, that's fine, because at that point he would have held it for like what, 2 years?
Yeah.
Damn, year 3, yeah.
2 years, yeah.
Something like that.
Plus, the Universal title reign is more, like, in my opinion, is more important
But
than the
another
WWE
thing-
title reign. Like, in my
Another
opinion.
thing too that's important too is when Vince introduced Theory to the world, he said future Universal champion. So that's what makes this, like, kind of different. It's like, does Roman more specifically, who does Roman lose to, and who does Theory cash in on?
Yeah.
if the whole My Via thing doesn't happen at WrestleMania, maybe Cody and Roman finally happens at WrestleMania. Cody wins the Universal, but Cody said he wanted to go after the WWE. This whole shit's a fucking mess. I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. Carry on.
You can't put too much stock into something Vince McMahon said. That's like if your drunk crazy uncle came into the birthday party and said he saw aliens outside. You're not going to run your ass outside looking for aliens. You're going to say, "All right, Grandpa, sit your ass down before you hurt yourself." Like,
I ain't gonna lie. I probably go outside to see what it's about. I ain't gonna lie. I'd probably go outside.
I might go see. You know,
probably go outside.
All right,
Oh, there you UFO outside? Where? Oh shit!
might want to see that.
T, I want you to touch on the video that we was talking about earlier before we went live. I want to touch on that because you can explain it because you was in the. I don't know everything that happened and went on, so we can touch on this because I want to talk about it.
So allow me to fully explain this. Me and Donnie had a disagreement. Well, me and Donnie had a little disagreement. He said that Roman Reigns on an all-time level, on an all-time list, is higher than Jeff Hardy and Rey Mysterio. Me personally, I can't rock with that. On an all-time scale, higher than Jeff and Ray, like just wrestling, like all that. I can't rock with it. Like, cause I feel like people are comparing like this 2-year run. Cause you're not gonna tell me anything Roman did before this 2-year run is better than Jeff and Ray's careers. So it's got to be this run. So I don't think you could take that 2-year run he's had, you know, and then put that against the 20+ legendary careers of Rey Mysterio and Jeff Hardy.
Let me say this though: if you're gonna have this conversation, I don't personally believe that you can discount everything Roman did from 2014 to 2018. Like, sure, all we remember of Roman during that time is Vince wanted it to happen and we didn't want it to happen. That's all we remember. But if you really go back and watch, like, dude had bangers with Brock Lesnar, Daniel Bryan, Bray Wyatt, Seth Rollins, Dean Ambrose. He was no, he wasn't as good as he is now, obviously. He's obviously improved leaps and bounds 100-fold over the past 2 years. But I don't think that you can fully discount. Now, again, to me, it's debatable. It's apples and oranges, really. I don't think he's above Ray quite yet. To me, I don't know. Maybe he's right at where Jeff is, or right above, or right below. I don't know.
I'll take that.
A personal opinion. And honestly, I don't feel like getting blocked by anyone on this video because I've been blocked by enough fucking people over Jeff Hardy. So that's completely up to you on what you want to think. I just don't think we can discount everything he did during the course of that year just because of how the fans reacted to him.
Don't get me wrong. I'm not don't want to discount it. You know what I'm saying? Stuff he did from 2014 to 2018, 19 on. He's had some great matches, but for that time period, I just can't see that being on the level or even like especially over a Ray or a Jeff Hardy, especially with the legendary moments they've had.
Yeah.
Well, I think what I said. Oh, go ahead, Louis. You got something to say? Go ahead. I'll let you talk.
Can I chime in? Can I chime in real quick?
Go ahead.
You have to block me.
I'm not the biggest. I'm not an avid Jeff Hardy supporter. I never slandered the man, but I've never really talked about him. But are we talking about the same Jeff Hardy, the tag teams of all time? We talk about the man that helped revolutionize the TLC match, along with 2 other great tag teams. It's like Roman is good by himself on a singles aspect. You know what I'm saying? And with the faction wise too. But Jeff is great all around. He has a great singles career, a great tag team career, Team Extreme. If you want to consider that a faction too, that's legendary within the business. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not an avid Jeff Hardy supporter. I never, like, I don't separate. Like, you know what I'm saying? I don't really talk about Jeff like that. But Roman on a singles run is good, but me, though, Jeff, he's all around.
Jeff and Ray have revolutionized stuff, but there's levels to greatness though. And it's not Jeff or Ray's fault, but they never were the guys in WWE like Roman is. They never been pushed solely as the guys. They've never made an event at WrestleMania. They've never had combined. Rey Mysterio and Jeff Hardy have never even held a world title as long as Roman Reigns held a world title. And it's not their fault because they had the popularity at one point. They had the credibility. They just never pushed them, to be on that spot. And I feel like I'm not saying Jeff Hardy and Rey Mysterio have had bigger impacts than Roman Reigns has. You know, depending on how you feel, because most of us grew up on Jeff Hardy, Rey Mysterio, and I feel like most people from our era, if you grew up as a kid, you either was a John Cena fan, a Jeff Hardy fan, Rey Mysterio, or like Batista or somebody like that. You feel me? Like they was somebody that was like your idols. You know, they were the ultimate baby faces. For me, it was John Cena. Life, it was Jeff Hardy. You know, Christian for him. You know, like everybody had their different favorites, but I'm just strictly talking about when I said in the comments, I just said Roman Reigns had a better WWE career than Jeff Hardy, Rey Mysterio because of the push that he's been receiving. They've never pushed Jeff Hardy, Rey Mysterio.
I agree. I agree.
Okay, with that, and I touched on this. I made a video, a TikTok that's coming out.
I agree.
Actually.
I agree. If we're talking about from a WWE standpoint, if we talking about from a WWE standpoint, I agree. But it's also when people in the wrestling community talk about Jeff Hardy, they tend to downplay him a lot. Like now this is pretty much me gonna be defending Jeff. Like we're not gonna act like we're not gonna discount his runs in TNA. We're not gonna discount his other runs in other companies. Like the dude literally showed up day one on Ring of Honor and stole them tag titles from the Young Bucks. Like we're not gonna discount this man helped revolutionize wrestling what it is today. Like the disrespect is crazy. I'm fucking tired of it. I ain't gonna lie.
People, you literally used to dress like Jeff Hardy, bro. Like people used to do like the Impact, like the
they still do.
that bro is
bro. The 2008 to 9 stretch, Jeff Hardy was the most popular guy in WWE.
He was the president.
I would have voted
for him. If I could vote at 8, I would have voted for that man. That's my guy.
He was the most. I mean, if it really wasn't for like his personal, issues that he had going on, his push could have probably went further than it did. You know what I mean? Because he was extremely popular around that time frame. So I mean, he had the credibility. I'm just saying, there's different levels when it comes to pushes. Yes, you may have Jeff Hardy and Rey Mysterio may have had bigger impacts, on the wrestling world because they've been around longer and they helped revolutionize a lot of things. Rey Mysterio with the luchador and Jeff Hardy with the risk taking and the high flying and like all that stuff. But as far as career wise, Roman Reigns has had a better career in WWE because of how they utilize him. They've made him had a better WWE career than those guys. Like it's not Jeff Hardy and Rey Mysterio's fault because they never got pushed to the Roman level because they were never the guys. But it just is. It is what it is.
You know something?
You
know something? I just think that taking what Roman is right now, obviously, when you look at it on like that surface level, if you had like UFC that tail the tape and they have all the people, all the stats and stuff like that. If you look at Roman and Jeff, you look at Roman and Ray, Roman clears just off of the numbers, off of the stats. For me, I don't know if this is just the nostalgia talking that 8-year-old boy is screaming right now.
All right.
You have Roman Reigns right now, who is on a legendary run. As much as I hate him, I can't
all time run.
You know what I'm saying? It's insane.
Right.
What you can take though from like Jeff Hardy at his peak in 2008, and you remove it, and you like think about how high he was right now, back in 2008, and how high he is still. Like in AEW, he's hot. When
you remove his peak, he's still legendary. Is what you're saying, basically.
You know what I'm saying?
You remove that's what I wanted to get at.
That's what I'm saying. His time period, his expiration date, I feel is much. It goes on longer than Roman's does. I think Roman is hot. I think Roman is like the new toy. It's like think of Toy Story. Remember when Buzz came in and Woody was the toy, and then Buzz came in. It was like, oh my God, it's Buzz Lightyear. That's what I think Roman Reigns is. I think Roman Reigns is Buzz Lightyear. He got all the flashy buttons. He's cool. Yeah, he's cool. Yeah, whatever. Jeff was there for Jeff's peak was 1 year. And you can go on Twitter right now. I don't want to put Twitter in it. I think Twitter's a freaking cesspool. But you go to Twitter right now, you will see 99% Jeff Hardy support years removed from him ever being able to do a swanton bomb correctly because his back is messed up. You know what I'm saying? Years removed, that man is still one of the most loved people in the world. Forget wrestling. People just like him. You know what I'm saying?
And I think it also, we talked about earlier too, it's the factor of the Vince guy and the not Vince guy. Jeff Hardy was never a Vince guy. He was the guy for the people because he related to the people. He did shit that people were like, oh, he jumping off ladders, he jumping off all types of crazy stuff. He painting his face. He stood out differently than everybody else in the roster. So that's why you gravitated towards him.
A lot of it too is people can relate to Jeff Hardy because he's been battling demons his entire life, right? Which I totally get, and I don't want to take that away from him. My and I know this isn't what we're talking about, but my point has always been love Jeff Hardy as much as you want for that. there comes a time he still has to hold himself accountable. That's always been my one criticism with Jeff Hardy, is that it seems like he's never been made to hold himself accountable for his actions. But if we take away all of that, then yeah, Jeff Hardy's one of the greatest in-ring performers of all time. But I think a lot of the love he gets online is pretty strictly because of that, because people appreciate him for what he's battled and what he's gone through.
Well, I think. Well, Jason, I'll let you touch on it. You ain't spoken, man. So I'll let you touch on it.
I mean, I don't really like disagree with like anything in terms of like the whole y'all, like all of y'all make valid points in terms of like when Malik said he's had a better like all around career because that's just like who they've had to push. Like it's just, I mean, that's just what it is. I can't really argue with that because it's true. Like Jeff Hardy was never the WWE guy. He's never had like any of these type of, like Roman Reigns type run, but also in the same sense, like I'm not going to sit here and say that I would put Roman higher on my list than Rey Mysterio or Jeff Hardy, because if we being honest, like in terms of just my favorites of all time, Rey Mysterio and Jeff Hardy are both in my top 10, like favorites of like all time, regardless of like what anybody else thinks. So it's just like, if you want to say that Roman's higher than Rey and Jeff Hardy, I mean, I could see why you say that. I'm not going to argue with it. I mean, I think differently. I probably wouldn't say that, but I mean, that's not something that I really feel the need to be like, hey, you shouldn't say that because, you're wrong and this, that, and the third. I wouldn't make a big deal out of it because it's just like, I can see why somebody would feel like that.
I just feel like there's different levels to being pushed as a guy and being pushed as a top guy. Not everybody gonna be top guy WWE face of the company material. It's only who they feel like can fit that spot and make them a lot of money and be that mold. Roman Reigns was that. John Cena was that. Hulk Hogan, Stone Cold, The Rock, Shawn Michaels. All those guys were that at one point. Jeff Hardy and Rey Mysterio were never those guys. You know what I mean? Not because they couldn't be, just because the WWE never put them up there to be that guy. So there's different levels.
You know something I just thought of, and correct me if I'm wrong. I think I'm pretty sure I'm right in this. I don't think Jeff has ever been on the cover of a wrestling video game.
I don't think he has either.
I don't think he has. And I don't know how relevant that is. I think that has a major relevance to who the big stars are in the company. Because think about it.
It's at least worth considering.
All of those times you have the game and you have the top stars on the roster. For some reason I was thinking of SBR 2010. I think I was thinking that because Jeff had like a 93 rating in that game, but he wasn't on the cover.
I don't think he was ever on the cover of the WWE.
Yeah.
You sure he wasn't on the cover where it featured ECW? Or was
I don't
that was
Undertaker, John, and Bobby Lashley?
John Cena and
It was Lashley, Undertaker, and Cena.
Yeah, that's maybe he was on the back. I don't know.
I don't know. I can't remember. I never thought he was. I feel like I would have remembered that, but it's like just even something as small or as big as however you want to gauge.
But touching on the Roman Reigns thing though, because I made a video about this. I want to touch on this too. I made a video about this the other day. A lot of people, somebody made a video talking about, I don't understand how you like John Cena, but you don't like Roman Reigns type thing. And a lot of people thought this person was comparing like the talents between the two. Like John Cena has better talent and everything, but he's not. I feel like he was talking about how WWE pushes both guys to an extent. And the push is no different. It's the same. John Cena was pushed heavily at the top, just like Roman Reigns is. And a lot of what people I think miss too is that people our age now, people who are around our age, the way they feel about Roman Reigns is how people who were older than us felt about John Cena back then. That's why they hated John Cena. They felt like he was overpushed. They felt like he was winning too much. John Cena, my favorite wrestler of all time, bro. John Cena was my idol as a kid. Looked up to that man, wanted to be just like him. The only wrestler I ever looked up to. I never looked up to any other wrestler besides him. But I always understood why people, to a degree, didn't like him. Because he did win a lot. And there were times when I was a kid, like when John Cena beat the Nexus, I was like, he probably shouldn't have beat the Nexus like that. You feel me? Like that ain't feel right. Like that didn't feel right. You feel me? Like, when John Cena beat Bray Wyatt at WrestleMania, I was like, okay. It didn't bother me, but I'm like, he probably could have did the favor. You feel me? Like, he probably could have did the little favor there. But I understood, like, people. I'm gonna bring up a stat to you. John Cena from 2005 to 2017 has won 16 titles in that span. This is a WWE title alone. He held 13 times. They never pushed John as far as like Roman with the longevity of championship because John Cena was always losing the title and winning it back. He lose it and then he win it back. He lose it and win it back. He never had a run of a stretch with the championship like Roman is having. They're pushing Roman a little bit differently. the way Roman is being pushed as champion, they haven't pushed anybody like this since they did with Hulk Hogan. And Jay may be the only person who was alive around that time because I wasn't alive, Jason wasn't alive, and I know you guys weren't alive either around that time. So it's not a repetitive cycle.
Take offense to that.
They haven't. But my point is, like, they haven't done a push like this with Roman in decades. It's been a long time since they've done something like that. So I feel like people, when I was talking about that, you know, a lot of people I saw in the comments saying like, well, John Cena, he can cut a promo, he can put on good matches, but I'm not talking about the talents. I'm not saying Roman Reigns is a better overall talent than John Cena, but as far as the push, it's the same. John Cena was a top guy at one point. He got pushed at the top, whether people liked him or not. Roman Reigns is the same way. Hulk Hogan was the same way. Anybody who's gonna be the top guy gonna get the top guy pushed because they're the top guy. It just is what it is. John Cena has more wins than any WWE superstar in history. This man has I looked up the stats too because I made a video about it and I remember. He's wrestled 2,198 matches and he has won 1,743 matches. Dude got an 80% winning. His winning range is 80%. That man's shoulders was barely on the mat, bro. That's a lot.
Listen,
that's why Billy Gunn is 1-0 against them.
Malik's ageism notwithstanding, I really can't. I mean, I grew up in the Monday Night Wars, and if Rock and Austin weren't wrestling each other, they beat everybody. If Sting and Hogan weren't wrestling each other, they beat everybody. That's just how it is. That's how it's always been. If Cena and Orton weren't wrestling each other, they beat fucking everybody. And I don't get where the hate just because Roman Reigns wins a bunch of matches, because this has been a thing for the entire length of wrestling. Bruno Sammartino held the championship for what, 26 years? So the top guy does top guy things, and that's the way that it's always been. So I do get a little bit agitated when people say, use the term push down our throats or push too much or push too early, because that's just wrestling. It's just wrestling, and it's the way wrestling will always be. Top guys do top guy shit, like Roman Reigns has said before. So I don't know.
And I think too, like I think when people look at it though, is that when people look at like a Roman Reigns or a John Cena or a Hulk Hogan, they always felt like there were people who were better than them to an extent, whether it be in-ring wise. Like, you know, Roman Reigns, but I think people that look at it too is that those guys don't have to be the best at anything because they're going to get pushed just based off how they look, or maybe the company feels like they can rely on them. You know, like Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins is a better wrestler than Roman Reigns. AJ Styles can wrestle better than Roman Reigns. A lot of people in the WWE can wrestle better than Roman Reigns, but those guys will never be pushed above Roman. They will always be number 2 to Roman Reigns because Roman Reigns is the big money draw that the company feels like they can evolve around with. John Cena was the same way. A lot of people, talked about he was the 5 moves of doom. And he could barely do things in the ring. But even though John Cena put on good matches, but I can understand he was never the better. Shawn Michaels was around when John Cena was around. John Cena not a better wrestler than Shawn Michaels, but it wasn't Shawn Michaels' time. It was John Cena's time. That's why, John Cena got the push. Same with guys like Austin and Rock and Hogan. Like, they were never the best wrestlers of their eras, but they were the big money draws. And money draws, I feel like the way WWE looks at it, drawing money is more important than in-ring ability to them. You could be a good wrestler, but if you can't draw tickets and you can't sell seats, then you just out of the loop. That's how I look at it. And they feel that you look at it with anybody. Certain people, I feel like, have a rarity of both. Like Brock Lesnar, somebody I would say that has both when he wants to. Like when Brock Lesnar really wants to wrestle, he can wrestle. It just depends on the day for him, like honestly, and the opponent. It depends on how you really feeling because he got that ability. But he can draw too, though. He can put on good matches. John Cena the same way, but they don't have to be the best at everything. They're gonna get pushed because the WWE looks at them and says, you know what? This guy gonna make us a lot of money. He got the look that we want. He got the work ethic we want. I mean, we were talking about this in the group chat, me, Lewis, and Jason, and other people. But somebody had said, like, if Brock Lesnar never left, do you think guys like John Cena would have succeeded still? And I said, I think he would have, because there are different factors that play into it. Number one, John Cena was a hero to guys like me and other people, and that wasn't a superstar like Brock Lesnar or Randy Orton or Batista. Those guys weren't looked at as superheroes like the way John Cena was perceived. At least for me, I didn't look at him like that.
I was always a Batista guy. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I fucked with John Cena, but Batista I like Batista a lot more.
Batista should have ended the streak.
Batista was cool, but I feel like what hurt Batista was his injuries. I feel like he was hurt too much, and he was a little older too. Like, people may not know this, but when John Cena and Batista both won the world titles at WrestleMania 21, Batista was already in his mid-30s. He was like 35, 36 years old. John Cena was only 28. So it was like the age gap was a
Wow.
little different. The age gap was a little different. So Batista was already Batista the same age as Triple H. They the same age. So and Batista
Jeez.
older than Triple H actually. So it's like it's the age gap and the injury prone. Plus the way John Cena, whether you like John Cena, the way he impacted the fans. Not everybody has that type of impact. You can't. Not everybody can be that guy. And you can't. You gotta have that it factor. You could really have that something special about you. And John Cena was that for a lot of people. And plus, what also separates it too, I think, why John Cena was succeeded is because of the work ethic. John Cena was like the ultimate company guy for the WWE for like 10 years. He literally put the WWE before his own life. He didn't have no kids, wasn't married to that time. Anything the WWE wanted him to do, he would do. This man literally schedule was ridiculous. They say, "Hey John, we need you to fly out of the country to go to Australia to do this little meet and greet type thing for 2 days, and then come back and be on Raw, and then do the house shows, and then do WrestleMania Sunday." He gonna do it without hesitation. You feel me? So it's like
I think one thing that people should. I think one thing people should appreciate Cena on, which I understand why it doesn't get a lot of attention, but you guys remember back in 05, certain tragedy happened. John Cena was a big reason why wrestling is still alive today. You know, it's that impact Cena had, you know, him basically putting WWE or wrestling on his back in general and digging WWE out of the tragedy that happened. It doesn't get talked about a lot, which I understand why, but that shouldn't go unnoticed either. You know, like that right there, what he did helping WWE out in that time frame, like it's not going to go unnoticed, you know, which I think people don't credit Cena a lot on that because he was a top guy of some bullshit that happened and he dug WWE out of the hole single-handedly.
My thing that I never understood too is that people were always saying like through that 10-year stretch, John Cena was stale or he was boring, stuff like that. But like he watched everything he did though. No matter what he was doing, he was watching it. He was invested.
You watched it though.
Yeah,
That's why.
Yeah.
I watched it.
He was invested into half the shit he did because everything he did felt important to the product, no matter who he was facing, because he was John Cena. If his name was on it, you was going to be invested into it or at least check it out because Cena's impact was just that big. I can understand if you didn't like the character change, you wanted the heel turn so bad, or you just didn't like that he pandered to the fans too much. I can understand that, you feel me? But like Lewis said, his impact, I think, is starting to be more appreciated now because he's not there anymore. And people are like, oh, damn, John Cena ain't here anymore. Like, we could really use him right now type shit. You feel me? Like, we could use his star power. We could use his credibility. And now that John Cena is like the LeBron James of WWE. LeBron James won't be appreciated until probably he's done playing basketball. That's when people finally give him the respect that he deserves. People hate on this man for all the wrong reasons. This man does nothing wrong in basketball. He just go out there and hoop. That's all he does. Put up great numbers, help teammates out, try to win championships. He may not win all the time. John Cena's the same way. John Cena puts the company on his back. He works hard, tries to make the best of his ability, tries to make the best out of everything he does. But he's hated for a lot of the reasons that people feel like he needs to be changed about. And LeBron is the same way. LeBron won't be appreciated. Watch when this guy retires. Whenever he announces his last year in the league, gonna be a sad day. Oh, LeBron, this is gonna be his last year playing. Oh man, like this
crying.
I'm not gonna lie to you in terms of like the whole like LeBron thing. I feel like it's still gonna be like a certain amount of people like Skip Bayless. He just gonna start talking about LeBron a little bit less, and he gonna transfer that hate onto his sons. And I've seen people do that because it's just like I know we talking about wrestling, but it's just like that's just kind of weird to me. Like you got people calling his kids LeBum Jr. and it's just like, bro, they in high school. Like what you talking about? But
that's a hater at that point.
That's
they just breathing, yo. They just breathing.
Like, John Cena, like that's the thing. Like I've never hated John Cena. Like I said, I was a Batista guy, so I like Batista more than John Cena. But in the same sense, like I was of the knowledge that like John Cena was the guy, and John Cena couldn't nobody touch John Cena because at that point he was carrying. And it's just like when people hate on him for like being this, that, and the third, or being corny and this, that, and the third, blah blah blah. It's just like, okay, you can feel that way, but you're not gonna sit up and tell me that, especially now, you're not gonna sit up and tell me that John Cena ain't on Mount Rushmore. If we being honest, I really like if John Cena on your Mount Rushmore, like I got a couple questions for you because it's just like, how can you like it ain't too many people that you should be putting over John Cena just based off of what he's done and how he's carried that company.
Exactly. I mean, I feel like people let their grudges hold certain things back from what it be. And I think Roman Reigns will have that same effect. I said Roman Reigns will have the John Cena effect by the time he's retired. I feel like people dislike him so much that by the time he's done wrestling, people gonna have a hard time putting him in categories that he shouldn't be in. Not saying he'll be like on the Mount Rushmore or in this category, but like people gonna have a hard time saying like, oh, Roman Reigns one of the best WWE super, or he had one of the best runs. Like people, it's hard for some people to appreciate other people's greatness when you dislike them for certain reasons. Tom Brady like that, Floyd Mayweather, LeBron James, John Cena,
Conor
McGregor. Certain people are so great at certain things, but it's like it's hard for certain people to really acknowledge their greatness just because you don't personally like them. Listen, I was a Kobe Bryant fan growing up. I never liked LeBron James like that. He was never my favorite player in the league. He ain't even in my top 10 favorite players all time, probably. But I'm not going to sit up here and say that LeBron James ain't top 5, if not the greatest basketball player that ever exists in basketball. Like, that's just ridiculous at this point. Like, his stats right there show for itself. Like, everything you could Google this man's stats and compare it to anybody's stats, and you're going to be like, okay, like, his stats that nice. You're right. Like, they up there. John Cena's credibility is the same way. Like, his accomplishments speak for itself, his resume, his importance. I think people, like I said, didn't really start to appreciate him until after he was removed from WWE, and now people are like, oh, man, like, we kind of miss John Cena. But I'm like, y'all ain't miss John Cena like 10 years ago, though, when he was there. Like, now y'all miss John Cena, though? Now y'all want John Cena there?
For real.
It's real talk.
Let you talk on this, Lewis. Somebody said thoughts on Christian Cage. Talk about why you what I never understood. You never even said why you like Christian so much. I don't know if you ever talked about that.
Well, it's actually funny because I didn't start when I first started wrestling. I didn't first start watching WWE. I first started watching TNA. My dad didn't like the WWE bullshit. He didn't like Cena. He didn't like Batista. He didn't like all these other guys in WWE. So I was visiting my dad, and he was like, "Have you watched wrestling?" And I was like, "Nah." And then he just put it on, and this was around the Asylum era of Christian. And seeing Christian, like, the bad guy, I was like, "Fuck him." But I was more so how Jeff Hardy fans, when they saw Jeff Hardy in TNA, they fought him to TNA. I was the same way with Christian, and just seeing Christian what he did. In WWE, I always felt like, man, like he's one of the guys that are so underappreciated. He needs to be loved more. When you talk about the TLC match, you talking about first names you probably gonna talk about is Matt, is Jeff. You know what I'm saying? Or you gonna talk about Edge. Nobody mentions Christian. And I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna be real. I don't know why I can't come up with a real reason why I'm so connected to Christian. It was just like first glance, first guy I saw, that's who I like. You know what I'm saying? I can't tell you why. You know what I'm saying? He didn't have a drop dead character that attracted me to him. You know what I'm saying? He didn't have this one amazing promo. It was just first glance. I saw him. I love him. And I've been a Christian fan since. And, with a guy like me liking a mid-carder, it sucks because I saw all y'all fucking favorites getting all these world title pushes. I was not getting that with Christian. You know what I'm saying? I was cool with the little intercontinental title wins and shit. But Christian, he was my motivation. You know what I'm saying? Especially with him retiring for 7 years with the concussion shit. That's my motivation. He was my motivation. And, just seeing Christian come back, at the Rumble, you know what I'm saying? I remember the whole Rumble thing. I was working at Sonic, you know what I'm saying? Watching the Rumble. Christian came out. I'm bawling my eyes out because I didn't expect for that to happen. Same way Cena was your role model, Christian's my role model. But I just can't tell you certain reason what attracted me to him. It was just first glance, first wrestler I saw. Christian was just that guy for me. I'm sorry, I'm talking a lot. I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
Shut up,
Lewis. You're talking about how you watched everyone else's favorite wrestlers become world champions and get the pushes they deserve. My favorite wrestler of all time is Dolph Ziggler. Dolph Ziggler don't get shit. Dolph Ziggler don't get shit.
Hey,
so I get it.
Hey,
I get it. I think that the people who have favorite wrestlers but can't explain why they're their favorite wrestler, I think those are the ones that are the most passionate. Because I can't tell you why I am such a Dolph Ziggler mark.
I'm with you with that one.
I'm the markiest mark that ever marked. I'm Mark fucking Wahlberg for Dolph Ziggler. And
I'm the same way about Shelton.
It's just the way he acts, the way he talks. Right now, he's not even on fucking TV. And every time I watch Raw or SmackDown and Ziggler doesn't show up, I get pissed. It's like a complex.
Man,
the episode ends.
Man, I tell you, man, like everybody.
Right. Where the fuck is Dolph Ziggler? So,
like,
I know we're
But
talking about
every
Christian. I know we're talking about
family-
Christian. I'm just saying, related back to Lewis's point. If Christian is your favorite wrestler and you can't explain why, that tells me really more than if you gave me a 30-minute soliloquy. Because I'm in your corner because Dolph Ziggler is my favorite wrestler and I can't explain why. It's just a thing.
Like all right, so I'm gonna retract a little bit. You know, it's not more so I can't give y'all a reason. It's more so if I kind of explain it more, I get emotional. You know, like you know, it's just Christian was my superhero. You know, Christian was my Batman. You know, he was just the guy that I just looked up to. He was my first ever action figure. I remember my first two action figures growing up was a Christian action figure with the red and orange Christian logo on the side of his pants, and it was the Vince McMahon tank top action figure. Those were my two first action figures, and you know, I followed Christian through ECW shit. I thought he couldn't go any higher than fucking ECW, you know, when he won that shitty ass belt. But I love Christian. He's my hero. You know, I get emotional always talking about him because, you know, he's a big reason why I'm pursuing a professional wrestling career and all this stuff. And I don't think, you know, like I said, I don't talk about it much. I know I'm talking a lot. Y'all probably like, yo, can this dude shut up already? Jason's like, yo, shut up in his head. But
yeah, because I hate you.
no, but like seriously though, that's my superhero. I love that man so much. You know, if I ever met that dude, man, I'd probably just ball out, telling him how much he means to me.
I met him.
Shit, fuck you. But man, I tell you, man, like you a John Cena fan, you had 16 fucking moments. I got one moment. Extreme Rules 2011. I got one moment.
To be fair, John Cena,
I got Rampage.
John Cena wasn't my first favorite wrestler though. Like when I first started watching wrestling, my first favorite wrestler was Eddie Guerrero. Eddie Guerrero was my first favorite wrestler when I first got into that. That was my guy right there. But John Cena, listen, all right, we gotta talk about our favorite wrestlers. I'll let everybody touch on that. I know you like Shawn Michaels, you like Jeff Hardy, so y'all can touch on what they mean to you too. But for me, Eddie Guerrero was the first guy that got me into wrestling, but I really ain't like when I really started fucking with John Cena heavily. I can tell you the moment too. Like I remember in my head, I always liked John Cena. Never disliked him, you know, through his run and everything going up to WrestleMania. I remember watching WrestleMania 21, him win the WWE title from JBL. I was like, oh, that's cool, man. He got the WWE title, but that fucking I Quit match when he had with JBL, bro. The end of it when his face was all bloody and he in the ring holding two titles. I felt something. I was like, bro, this man's Superman, bro. He's Batman right now. Like I felt something in my soul, bro. Like I don't know what it was, but like, you know, because I'm a kid at the time, so like obviously I don't know what wrestling is really about, but like what I saw blood on this man's face, like crimson mass blood, and I saw him holding up both belts with blood on his chest and on his face. I'm like, bro, this guy's a guy right now, bro. He's a beast, bro. He's my favorite. I'm not turning back right now. He's my favorite. That's when my John Cena fandom really, really started. And it's just, we all have people we look up to. There's only two people I ever idolized as a kid. One of them was Kobe Bryant. The other was John Cena. Only other two people I ever looked up to. But John Cena was like, bro, I can't even explain it, bro. Like the way he would make me feel when he come out, bro, I felt like I was vicariously living through him. Like when he was wrestling, like I felt like I wanted to be him. Like if I was a wrestler, I was like, bro, I want to be this guy. I want to be him because he feel like he the best, and I want to be the best. He just felt like larger than life. He just felt larger than life to everybody. You know what I mean? Like he just felt something different about his aura. Like it was just his style, his prestige, like the way he presented himself. Like I can't even explain it. It's just like John Cena just meant so much to me as a kid, and like even through the later years. Like now that he's not even there, I appreciate him so much now because I'm happy that I got to see the John Cena era through his time. You know, like I'm glad I got the 10 years that I got with John Cena, you know what I'm saying? Because not everybody gets a lot of moments with their favorite wrestlers and everything, but like he was just like Superman to me, bro. There's no other way to explain it. Like when his music would hit and he would come out, bro, I'm getting fired up. When John Cena would lose, even though it wasn't often, but when that motherfucker's shoulders was pinned to the mat, he was raging. We was upset over here, bro. Like that's part of the reason why I despise Edge, because Edge was always coming at John Cena, bro. I'm like, bro, leave my guy alone, bro. Like, just leave him alone, bro. Go mess with somebody else, bro. Like, cashing in Money in the Bank. Why you gotta do that? You cheat in his hometown to beat him at SummerSlam with the brass knuckles with Lita. I remember those moments, bro. Like, I remember how that shit made me feel. And it just, like, that's when I really kind of knew that John Cena was my favorite. Because, like, you know, when your favorite wrestlers, you like them, but when they lose, it's a different type of feeling when they lose. Especially when you're growing up, you're like, oh, no. We ain't having that now. Like we ain't losing is not cool. Feel me? So, I mean, most people from my era majority, I would say probably majority of the people who grew up in my era grew up John Cena fans just because he was the guy. But I never really so liked him just because he was the face. He just felt when I watched wrestling, I just felt like I wanted to be him. Like I didn't feel about that anybody. I didn't want to be the Undertaker. I didn't want to be Shawn Michaels. I didn't want to be Triple H. I wanted to be John Cena. Like I wanted to be that guy right there. Like if I'm anybody, I want to be him. He just felt separate. He just felt different to me, and he felt larger than life. Like this guy just felt so much larger than life to me. I can't even explain it, bro. It's just like he was just like Superman. Like this, like the way.
Were you
people feel
torn
about-
on CM Punk and John Cena though? Because I know you fuck with Punk too. So like,
No, okay. So honestly, this is why I love CM Punk so much because
Don't get me started about Punk. Ooh.
CM Punk. So going into that pipe bomb. So first off, I'm sorry, Loft, but I got to bring this up. But
You good? You good?
I always liked CM Punk, even like through the ECW stages. Like I always liked him because he felt different. He was a little bit different than everybody else. He didn't feel like everybody else. Ooh, I'm sorry, Loft. I gotta say this, but I really didn't start really heavily messing with Punk until he cashed in the Money in the Bank on Jeff, and then he got the Straight Edge Society gimmick. That's when I really started to like CM Punk a lot because that's when he was like, oh, boy. Now he getting up to the top for me. I don't know why. It's just something about Punk. He was becoming more of a favorite for me. But honestly, though, real talk, John Cena my favorite wrestler of all time. But CM Punk, why I love him so much, CM Punk was the first guy to ever make me root against John Cena. The first person that ever made me root against John Cena was CM Punk. Never rooted against John Cena in my life until that Money in the Bank match when he faced CM Punk. And I was like, I don't want John Cena to win. Like, I really want CM Punk to win this match. And I never felt that way with any other wrestler. And that's when I was like, okay, CM Punk made me feel differently too. Like he gravitates to me. You feel me? Like there's something about him that stands out differently. So CM Punk will always be one of my favorites of all time. He definitely will in my top 10 favorites of all time because if you could make a root against John Cena, then you're doing something special, honestly, because I never root against John Cena, not even against anybody. Like, if you could make me root against my favorite wrestler of all time, you're doing something right. So, but I'll let you touch, Bird. Everybody talk about their favorite wrestler. No, your favorite wrestler, Shawn Michaels. So,
Oh man, it's just to me, it's just like it's just a wave of confidence like he gave me at like a certain point in time in my life because like I've been watching wrestling since like since a kid. And I can remember back to the days where like I used to wear like I've always like I used to wear like goggles, like sports goggles, because my glasses broke and they were like silver with like snake skin on the side. And it was just like that was probably one of the most ugliest times I've ever had in my life. And at that point, it's just like growing up and like through school, I never felt like people genuinely liked me. Like I felt like people just kept me around because they liked my mom. And my mom, she was like the librarian at the schools that like all of us went to. So like everybody knew my mom, and I felt like nobody really liked me for me. They just liked me because like I was her son. And they just like would keep me around, and it's just like there were no genuine feelings towards me. But then it's just like with the whole Shawn Michaels thing, when I kind of like peeped like the irrational confidence that he had, and it's just like he was always walking like he was the shit and talking like he was the shit, and just like it's nothing that you couldn't tell Shawn Michaels. So it's just like when I saw that, it's just like, he's my favorite wrestler. And then it's just like I can be like that too. So it's just like from then on, I kind of like up the ante with like, the way I would act. Like I would joke on everybody. Like I would joke back on everybody. I would just kind of like walk and talk with that same irrational confidence. And it's just like now, it's to the point now, it's just like you really can't tell me anything about myself. Like you can say what you want, but it's just like it's not gonna be believed like it would have been believed back in the day when I was a little kid running around, little all ugly and stuff. Like that's not what it's gonna be because of Shawn Michaels. Like I know who I am, and to be honest, this is like in anything I do, like nobody can like make me feel less than what I know I am, thanks to Shawn Michaels. So it's just like that's one of the main reasons. And on top of that, it's just like his in-ring work. It's just he makes it look so easy, it's ridiculous. Like I've never wrestled a day in my life, but you couldn't tell me that I couldn't pull off a moonsault to the outside announce table. Like that was just so effortless, it just made no sense. But that's just mostly it. Shawn Michaels is all-time favorite. It's probably never gonna change. I don't see anybody taking that top spot.
What about you, T? Favorite wrestler?
Two two wrestlers is Shawn Michaels and CM Punk. Those are two people who just like they run their mouth. Like they can run their mouth to a point where they'll annoy you, but you can't tell them they're wrong. You can't tell them they're not the best. Those two people that'll run their mouth and they'll say all this stuff, but they can also back it up at the same time. CM Punk's pipe bombs, Shawn Michaels stuff that he says about other wrestlers that are sometimes true, stuff he says about himself. You can't tell Shawn that he's not the best, bro. And it's like when I love that energy of someone who is the best saying that, yeah, I'm the best. Because all the time, you don't got to be humble all the time. It's great to be humble, but sometimes people just like the best saying that, yeah, I'm the best. Not to mention their in-ring ability. We don't even gotta talk about it. Both of those people, their in-ring ability is just it's amazing. But when it comes to like character work and just talking, just straight talking, those guys like I don't know, they just make me feel. Whenever they even talk, they just make me feel. Those are my two all-time favorites, all time.
What you love, Jeff Hardy guy?
Yeah, man. You remember when they used to show they don't do it anymore, that's weird now, but they used to do the don't try this at home. They used to do it like at the end of like every show.
Yeah.
I remember watching that and then 5 minutes later just doing a swanton bomb onto my floor just to see if I could do it. I had pure dreams of just being exactly what he was. Like I started watching wrestling at the end of where like when SmackDown was on like the local channels, like the Teddy Long wedding. That's when I first came in and started watching SmackDown. And I stopped. And when I came back, Jeff was like on his way up to becoming champion. And around that time, I couldn't watch pay-per-views because my mom and my dad never bought them. So I had to wait until either I went on WWE.com to see it, and I couldn't even do that. I didn't have good internet. So I couldn't even do it the way I usually did it. So I had to wait until the next show. Dog, the feeling I had when I saw Jeff come out with that championship, I don't think that will ever be replicated. Like I've had some crazy like celebration moments. Like I had one with Money in the Bank with Liv, but nothing will ever compare to see like the pyro and the confetti and the crowd feeling the same way I did. That was just like that was insane. And then like I would cry my eyes out when CM Punk ended up sending him to TNA, and then I followed him to TNA, and he was still the man over there. It was just I've always gravitated to him, like besides even the wrestler, being the face paint and the colors and all that stuff and the dancing. I always had troubles in my life with just like addiction to certain things, not to his extent ever at all, but I've always had that problem of like trying to find yourself within the problems that you have in your life. And for him to be so strong within that and like still be at the top of his game while still dealing with all that stuff in his brain that none of us will ever fully know, I will always love and respect him just as a person for that. So you add both of those things together and you just have the perfect wrestler to me. Like I said it before, if he ran for president in 2008, if I could vote, I would have voted for him with no question. Politics, that's Jeff. He's the coolest guy ever. He always will be. And I can't say anything else. That guy's just number one. That's my whole heart right there. That's in the world right there.
Shit. If I could chime in real quick, correct me if I'm wrong, Jay to Love, but the thing about specifically our favorites is when you particularly love a mid-card guy and they finally get that big moment, that's like I don't want to be a dick, but I mean Cena fans, Shawn Michaels fans, like that's a moment you guys like can't relate to. Because when you've been rooting for somebody so long, like, for example, I didn't think Christian would ever sniff a world title. And, unfortunately, Edge has to retire, and it becomes a blessing in disguise for Christian to finally get that moment. For guys like us who idolize mid-carders, who love mid-carders, and our favorite is literally mid-card wrestling, they finally get that moment. It's like it's one of the best feelings as a wrestling fan. You know what I'm saying?
Every time I feel like I'm falling out of wrestling, every time I feel like I'm losing interest or like, God, these booking decisions are just pissing me off, or I can't stick with it anymore, I go back and I watch the Dolph Ziggler cash in and Alberto Del Rio in 2013. And that everything about it reminds me of why I watch wrestling. And it's kind of like, I don't know, it's like I take a bump of something that keeps me going and I just stick with it and I keep watching wrestling, I keep making content. But yeah, that moment of Christian beating Randy Orton, or of Dolph Ziggler cashing in, or of Jeff Hardy beating or pinning Triple H or Edge or whoever it is. Like obviously if you know, that very first championship that Orton got, or that very first title that Shawn Michaels or John Cena got, but a lot of people came in right in the middle of what those guys were doing. So it was expected that they won those championships, and it was expected that they're going to go out there in the main event, they're going to win. But every time somebody like Christian or Dolph Ziggler is able to sniff the main event scene and have one of those big moments, it's like it's an ecstasy that you can't explain. And it's one of those things that people that are non-wrestling fans, if they were to hear us talk about this, would be like, what the fuck are these dorks talking about? But I don't care. It's such a great feeling. And yeah, I know exactly what Lewis is talking about.
You touch on that, Love?
That was just that's it right there. I mean, the only thing I do remember though from like the era of like John Cena though, when Jeff left and like I only saw Jeff on TNA, Cena was like 1A because like you said, he was just a superhero, dog, and I always could gravitate towards like superheroes, and I was up that Marvel and DC shit. That I was, besides wrestling, that's all I ever watched was like the superhero shit. So seeing Cena in that light and just him being like unbeatable, it was the best thing for me, and I was so conflicted like during the whole Nexus stuff because I hated when Nexus came out there and they whooped his ass. Oh my god, I was heated the next day at school. I was so mad. But like, I understood when I was like watching like the people older than me. My dad used to watch wrestling, and he hated Cena too because just him always getting pushed and stuff like that. And when Nexus did that, he was like jumping up and down. You know, he thought it was the best thing ever. So it's like that era of like Cena after the whole Jeff era. I always got to give John Cena props too, because when he came back in Money in the Bank last year, I was sobbing. Cause that was just like I felt like a kid again, and like I always gravitated towards wrestlers. Jeff and John aside, all the wrestlers that at my years of 21, if they can make me feel like a 9-year-old kid again, you got me. You know what I'm saying? And those are two of the people that like no matter what they do, if they come back years from now, they will. If I see them on screen, they will always make me feel like a kid, and that I will always cherish that for the rest of my life. Bro, that's just why I'm a wrestling fan. Just bringing me back to the feeling of when I first started.
I mean, that's why our favorites are our favorites for a reason. They make you feel the ways you do about wrestling. You know what I mean? They make you. That's what wrestling is supposed to be about, though. Character-wise, whatever. All my favorite wrestlers that are in my top 10, it made me feel something in wrestling. You know what I'm saying? Undertaker, The Rock, CM Punk, Kurt Angle, and John Cena, and even Randy Orton, Brock Lesnar. You know what I'm saying? Like those guys, like, you know, I gravitate towards those guys a lot. They made me feel something. You know what I'm saying? Like something about them that stood out differently. You know what I mean? So before we head off here, I want you to share your favorite moment of your favorite wrestler. It could be a title win, it could be a return, it could be something your favorite wrestler, your favorite moment that happened with them. I'll tell you mine. So my favorite John Cena moment. Some people may not know this, they may not do know this, but it just holds so much to me. Listen, bro. When I tell you I hated Edge with a passion, bro, I'm not kidding, bro. Like I really despised him with a burning fiber. Like I thoroughly hated him. If I saw him on the street, I probably would have tried to fight him. Like no bullshit. Like when John Cena chucked Edge over that ladder into them tables and he grabbed that title off that, bro. When I tell you, bro, the feeling I had, bro, when I was like, bro, my guy is the bro. It's not even that he won the title; it's that he beat Edge, bro. Because I just couldn't stand Edge, bro, and he beat Edge, and I thought he just killed that man. So I was like, I'm okay with this. Like I'm okay with the death of Edge, and now John gets the title back. Like this is a great day for me. I'm a happy man again. I'm finally happy again. Besides that one though, when John Cena returned at the Royal Rumble, man, listen. First off, I should have teared when that man had to retire, had to leave, bro. I'm like, bro, you're not gonna be on TV, bro. I ain't gonna be able to see him. But when that man came back in that Rumble, hey, listen, bro. The excitement wasn't even. I can't even tell you what I felt, bro. Like I'm talking about running up and down the street, screaming like, "You can't see me, my guy is." But that was like, oh my god, the way I felt, bro, when he came back and won that Rumble, like, they talking about he was gonna be gone for up to a year. I'm like, bro, like this guy gonna be gone for a minute. Like I'm not gonna be able to see John Cena on TV for a minute. And he came back the way he did, unexpected. You know, this is back before like Bleacher Report and spoilers would come out. You know what I mean? So you didn't know anything at the time. So like just watching it and just for him to pop up the way he did, that right there, woo. That's probably my favorite moment of my childhood, honestly. Like I vividly remember watching it and like my reaction. Like I could vividly see it in my head. So go ahead, Jason. Let me touch.
As far as like my favorite, it's kind of weird, but like my favorite Shawn Michaels moment would have to be the one that actually made me feel the most and actually made me feel like the saddest, and that would be him against The Undertaker at WrestleMania 26. That was probably like the one and only time that I just might maybe have probably kind of shed tears, because that was just like I genuinely didn't think they was gonna have him retire. I thought that they was gonna actually have him, break the streak. I thought that was the case, and then they put on a banger, and then he lost, and then it was just like, wow. So what the fuck am I gonna do now? So it's just like, that was probably one of the saddest times of my life. But I would probably have to say that's one of my favorite moments because it made me feel the most any other match has ever made me feel.
What about you, T? It'll be either
either CM Punk or Shawn. For Shawn Michaels, my favorite Shawn Michaels moment is actually a match that he had. He had a 5-star match with Shelton Benjamin on a random episode of Raw. It was a part of a Gold Rush tournament. I like that match because it proves like it's Shawn proving that he can keep up with a young star who's just as amazing in the ring, right? And when Shelton goes like over the rope and he jumps up and you see Shawn get that leg ready for that sweet chin music and he hits it, it's like this is pure wrestling. It's just great pure wrestling. For Punk, I'm gonna have to say him returning at I think it was A&W Rampage. That was amazing. A very big moment that brought some emotions out of me because for years Punk's gone and he finally came back. And I knew that he was happy doing what he was doing. So like it was happy vibes all around. It was great. But those are my two.
Go ahead, Jay. What about you? Favorite Dolph Ziggler moment? You're on mute, brother.
Sorry, I had an issue with my mic a second ago and it muted me. It would be really easy to say the cash in, but that's kind of a special thing. I'm going to take that and set it aside. So there's two that immediately spring to mind. Number one was Survivor Series 2015, where Dolph Ziggler was the final remaining or the sole survivor, right, for Team Cena. I can just imagine if wrestling talk would have been a thing at the time. All 5 of you would have been making videos going, oh shit, Sting's in WWE. What the fuck? This is nuts. And in the middle of all of that, I've been making a video going, I told y'all, Dolph Ziggler was the sole fucking survivor. Something happened after the match, whatever. What a lot of Doc Rose. Dolph Ziggler was the sole fucking survivor. That would have been my TikTok video at the time. And sure, nothing came out of it, right? Ziggler was basically still just Ziggler for the next several years after that. But in that moment, man, where Ziggler was the last sole survivor for Team Cena, just so fucking good. And then Extreme Rules 2018, a card that wasn't great, but it had matches like Roman Reigns was on the card going against Bobby Lashley. Team Hell No was reuniting for one night only. But even with those matches on that card, the main event was Dolph Ziggler versus Seth Rollins in an Iron Man match for the Intercontinental Championship. And in that moment, that felt so, like, special. Like, sure, the only reason the world titles weren't there is because Brock Lesnar was the champion or whatever. But just the fact that it's the main event of a pay-per-view and boom, there's Dolph Ziggler. And, like, there's Seth Rollins, and it's an Iron Man match, and it's for the Intercontinental Championship, and it just felt so important, and it still feels somewhat important, even though, again, Dolph Ziggler, the thing about being a Dolph Ziggler fan, and it drives me up a fucking wall, is he has these spikes of momentum. The cash-in, Survivor Series, Extreme Rules versus Seth Rollins, but then it's such a steep and immediate decline with Dolph. There's no follow-up on it, and Dolph just goes back to being Dolph. But at those highs, being a Dolph Ziggler fan is the most fun I've ever had as a wrestling fan. So, yeah, those are my top 3 Ziggler moments.
All right, Lewis.
Man, wait, can y'all hear me good? Am I bugging?
You're all
I
right.
got you.
Are we good? All right. There's 2, man. I can't pick between the 2 because both are just so significant with each other. That first one being 2011 Extreme Rules, like when you see Edge beeping the horn, Christian knocking Del Rio off, and he lands on Brodus Clay and Ricardo Rodriguez, like, and then just Christian getting that belt. You see the crowd going crazy. It's like, I swear, I probably was the only kid in America just really crying. And at that moment, I could finally say, like, yo, like Christian finally did it, man. Like, I could die right there. The second one gets me more emotional than anything, and it was his match against Kenny Omega at Rampage. If you would have told me, Christian would come out of retirement and face Kenny fucking Omega out of all people, and actually become undisputed Impact Wrestling World Heavyweight Champion in the first match on Rampage, the first title match on Rampage, just the first everything on Rampage, and he single-handedly made history by beating Kenny Omega, I would have said you're a fucking dumbass. Don't talk to me. But I tell you, man, that kill switch on the chair and the ref hit 3 right there, man, that was probably the most emotional I ever got being a Christian. I'm tearing up right now. I'm thinking about everything, but just when the referee hit 3 and I saw Christian holding belts up, man, I was set for life right there, man. I'm crying. I'm sorry. But
I remember we was in the group chat. I remember you going crazy.
But I remember I go on Lost Podcast, OTB, they were talking about Christian, and I'm just like, you can go right back to that same video. I'm sitting there bawling my eyes out, man, and that Christian won, and I don't think anything could replicate that moment. He just comes back, beats Kenny, makes history, actually has a decent title run. It's like I couldn't ask for anything more than that. And I'm sorry, like I'm fucking emotional over that thinking about it, but
It could, man.
I don't think anything gonna come close to that moment. I'm just glad Christian finally got that moment he deserved, and that I hold that shit to the day I die. I ain't gonna lie.
Go ahead, Love. Your last.
That's real, bro. That's real, bro. I mean, that was like, I think I'm like stuck at 2 moments too. I think when CM Punk beat him on that SmackDown, I remember I was just like, it was so many different feelings. All of them were sad. It was like,
Right.
all the stages of grief I went through in like 30 seconds. Then I just cried for the rest of the night. I went to school the next day and didn't talk to anybody because at the lunch table, wrestling was whatever happened that night. And that was a Friday, so I had to wait until the weekend. Came back on Monday. That was a tough day. They were on my head for that one. I was just I had to take that. I was just in pure agony. You know what I'm saying? Just seeing him leave like that. But when I was watching TNA, like just randomly, because like you said, there was no Bleacher Report and stuff back then, so no one knew when Jeff was going to come back. And that had to be like a few months after he left SmackDown, I feel. And I was watching the Lethal Lockdown match, and Jeff came through the crowd. I lost it, bro. Like I that was like euphoria. I don't know what kind of feeling that was, because he looked different. It was the different music. His hair was cut, and he'd even come through with like through the thing. He was like they shot it weird because they turned to the camera and then like no one knew who it was, and then people in the crowd started freaking out, and I couldn't see. And I'm still looking at the little streak in his hand. I'm like, who the hell is that? I saw little Jeff, bro. I jumped off my bed, started screaming. My mom yelling at me. I don't care. My man is back. Look at him. He beating up Homicide. Like that was, oh my gosh. Jeff Hardy in TNA was just, every moment was great. I think that has to be my favorite moment, actually. When he came back, when he debuted in TNA. Actually, no, it's like his second debut, but when he made that show, when he showed up at TNA 2010, absolutely insane. I will
I
never.
remember watching that. I remember watching it, being like, "Oh, is that Jeff
That's
Hardy?"
crazy,
Like,
dog.
I
Oh,
remember
man.
watching it. That was kind of because it was like, I kind of expected him. Maybe he was going to go to TNA because he left WWE, but I just didn't know like when. I was like, maybe he'll go back to TNA because he's not there anymore. So I mean, like maybe he'll go there and like he show up. I was like, "Oh, is that Jeff Hardy?" And like sitting on top of the the cage and stuff. I remember that. That was pretty.
That's
Pretty
such a great shot. I was screaming in the house, dog. Oh man, that was insane.
Well, fellas, appreciate you guys for coming on. We'll go ahead and get you off here. It's getting a little late, you know what I'm saying? So appreciate you guys for coming on. Always fun chatting. You know, we had a bunch of chats about debates, you know, superstars and our favorites and everything like that. So thank you guys for coming on, taking the time. Thank everybody for watching. We had about almost 50 people in here watching at one point, you know. So thank everybody for coming in here, checking out, leaving your opinions and thoughts in the chat as well. Make sure you guys hit the subscribe button. Until the next podcast, the next stream, stay tuned. More Jeopardies, more of that coming for y'all in the future, man. So, fellas, it's been nice. Until next time, thank you guys for coming on.